In a not so distant, maybe, future America, a group finds a stranger on the road bearing the mark of their enemy. Can they trust them or not? That's the subject of our next guest, Gary Voelker's film, Settled. Gary, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Kevin. It's good to be here.
Awesome. So could you just give a quick summary for the audience about the film?
Well, it takes place in kind of a broken down future America. It takes place kind of after this global economic crisis has taken place. It's kind of, taking everything back down, the great equalizer, if you will.
Right.
And so people are finding ways to survive and try to get through this. And you have groups of people who try to kind of huddle together. And I guess really the approaches to it, I find a lot of times crisis can bring out the best and worst in people.
Right.
And so some people, they get together and they try to form these little communities and try to help each other out. Other people take advantage of the situation and they're just going out and just violence and everything else, and they become what they're going to become
Right.
through that. And so this group of people, they've kind of, the film is actually based on a verse in the Bible. I'm not going to preach at you, but
No, go ahead.
but Psalm 68 verse 6, which says that God sets the lonely in families. He leads forth the prisoners free with singing, but the rebellious dwell in a sun-scorched land. So that's kind of how we set this whole thing up. You got the people who are in these families. You've got this prisoner, this guy that they find on the road who's in chains, and he's actually bearing the mark of this group called the Scorchers, who are the crazy people who are out there just taking advantage of the whole situation and just no regard for human life whatsoever. And there's a group that wants to be compassionate towards him, bring him in. He's an outsider. The guy who's kind of running security says, no, get him out of here. There's a lot of animosity there. And really, it's really a story about understanding that the people who aren't exactly like you, that you may not accept and you may think look differently than you, or you might perceive as being the enemy or whatever, might be the very people that can change your life, or in the case of Jack, save your life. So there's a lot of themes about just accepting people who you might feel naturally antagonistic toward, but realizing that they might be a huge part of your future.
Right. So what inspired the story? Because you directed it, but did you write it as well?
No, I did not write it. It was written by Michael Murray, a great screenwriter, and he's in this local area. He's in Loudoun County, actually, where we shot the film. We shot the film in Purcellville, mostly in Purcellville. But yeah, he wrote the script for it.
Right. And like I said, you're no stranger to, I guess, me on the red carpet. I know the film was in the Indie Capital Awards earlier, and I know I talked with Josh Murray about, were you guys going to do a feature and everything with this? But the one of the things that I really enjoyed about the film is it is that kind of dystopian society. But you all, like you said, you shot it in Loudoun, so this is local, and I love seeing indie filmmakers that locally are doing big budget things. Like, you couldn't tell me that this wasn't shot on a big budget. It just looks amazing. So talk a little bit about, in terms of the production, like what all went into creating this film.
Well, and this is probably going to surprise you, but we made the film in 17 days. We 10 days of pre-production. We had a 4-day shoot, and then 3 days of post-production.
Wow.
Now that was because that was the format for it, and everything was for a speed film a speed filmmaking competition out in LA. And so we had that set amount of time to do it. We didn't even know what our story was 17 days before we got the thing done. Now, of course, what's screening at the Rosebud is a slightly, tweaked version of that. It's more of a director's cut, and we kind of, when you make a film that quickly, you make compromises along the way. And I wanted something that was a little more, polished. But yeah, that was the process. Was we knew we wanted to do it based on that verse of the Bible, and then we sort of brainstormed some ideas, and then Michael Murray went off and wrote. And he's a great writer. He's actually written a I don't think I can say this, a feature-length screenplay that's it's kind of its own thing. It's a little bit different than Settled is, and I've read it and it's awesome. And you know, I think that's all I can say about it. But
Okay.
Anyway, and then it was kind of interesting because I was living in Seattle at the time, and they flew me out to direct the film. And Paula Wood, one of the producers, she had worked with me on Breaking, which we shot in Seattle. I directed that, and she produced that with me. And we had a good experience together. Paula's great. You know Paula, right? Yeah, she's awesome.
Right.
She's just such a joy to work with, one of the best producers I've ever worked with. And so she brought me on to direct the film. So I came and I was working with people I'd never worked with before.
Okay.
So that was a really cool experience, to take a story that I hadn't written and to take a group of people that I'd never worked with other than Paula and make a movie. And it was an interesting experience, yeah.
Yeah, and you're no stranger to filmmaking. Like, this wasn't your first film that you actually done. You'd actually done, I've seen the short Breaking, correct? So just talk a little bit about, I guess, filmmaking, your love for it. And I know you're also a part of the Nova Christian Film Group, right?
Yeah, well, I've wanted to be a filmmaker since I was 4 years old. This will tell you how old I am. 1977, and Star Wars had just hit the theater, and I saw Star Wars, and I don't remember seeing any films that really did anything for me before that, but I saw Star Wars and I was just blown away. I said, I want to tell stories like that. No idea how I was going to do it, but it just moved me so much. I remember everything about that experience.
Can I just say this real quick?
Yeah.
I've always wondered what it would be like to actually have, like, for me personally, like, you know, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I got to see that in theaters, but I didn't get to see Star Wars in theaters when it came out. Like, that changed the game for everything.
Yeah, that's a real privilege to be able to experience that, you know, as such a young child. But that really it blew me away. I didn't have a video camera or anything like that.
Right.
But I had a little tape recorder. I used to just record stories, and I'd tell stories, and I'd do all the voices and sound effects and everything. And occasionally I'd bring in one of my sisters to be a character. Usually I'd kill them off or something. But I didn't even touch a video camera until I was 15. And that kind of changed everything. And I knew that's what I always wanted to do. It took me a while to get there. I started my production company, Experience Studios, 10 years ago. We're celebrating our 10th year this year. It was in 2005 that we started. I'd done a lot of freelance stuff before that, but that was official. And and so now that's what we do, and it's exciting. And I've directed, I think, 32 films at this point.
Wow.
Nothing that I think you understand this. You don't necessarily want to say, "Hey, look at this thing I made, 10 years ago." Yeah, you're only as good as your most recent project. Exactly. So I know that's kind of my experience. I generally don't share a lot of links to my films online or whatever. It's just me. I think I'm kind of hard on myself as a filmmaker.
Yeah.
Because I know what my vision for it is and what I want it to be, and it. Sometimes, the gap theory you've heard, which is you want to become a filmmaker because you know what works in a film and you love movies and you have good taste.
Right.
But for a while there's this gap between what you know is good and what you're able to make because of resources and just what you have available, budget or whatever else you want to look at. And the goal is to gradually close that gap. Yeah. But you might be in that gap for years. And I honestly. I'm 42. I feel like I'm still in the gap. I do. But, I always want to be getting better. And I think that's what we need as independent filmmakers. We don't really we get enough pats on the back. What we need to start doing is really seeking honest feedback and trying to improve and get better at what we do. Right. Some of the most refreshing conversations I've had with other filmmakers is when we talk about what we don't like about our own films, what didn't work for us, and then being able to give that feedback to each other. Yeah. Because that's the only way you're going to get better.
Man. Well, before you drop any more jewels on me, where can people find you or find the film online?
Well, I know Settled is on YouTube. I guess just search for Settled, and probably my name, Gary Voelker, that'll probably bring you to the right place. I believe Michael Tolosa has posted it under the Nova Christian Film Facebook or YouTube page.
Yep.
That's So that's where Settled can be found. And of course, screening at the Rosebud Film Festival.
Yeah.
We're very excited about that.
Definitely.
It's good to be a part of that. I'm on Twitter. I'm on Facebook. My company's on Facebook, Experience Studios. The Twitter handle was too long, so it's just Experience ST. So I like to say you go to Experience Street, but that's pretty lame. But anyway, that's. And you want to give my cell phone number? I can give you that.
No, that's all right.
You want
Social security
text
number.
me.
And,
Let me know what's up.
Right.
So, yeah.
Well, Gary, really do appreciate you coming on the show. I look forward to your future works because Settled is awesome, and I'm sure you're working on stuff now. Friend of the show, come on back anytime.
All right, awesome.
Thanks
Kevin.
man.